All right, let's start. I'm going to go through this pretty quick. This is, believe it or not a bad turnout. I think this is higher than the attendance in San Francisco. I got to do something to make this more sexy or something, because it's not going to work like this. So hopefully this will be an entertaining begathon and pledge drive for Scala. I was explaining that all my life, whilst growing up, I've been exposed to through my local village, and in particular the local pub. I guess that sounds awful. Not all my life, all my adult life as I was growing up. And the pub had a lot of World War II memorabilia in it, including propaganda posters, and it just seemed like a natural way to push this. So, and there's some fun stuff in here I'll explain as I go through. So, okay, quick bit of background. I no longer work with or at TypeSafe. I haven't since March. Apparently this is somewhat of a well-kept secret, because I've not been trying to keep it secret, neither has TypeSafe, but people are still not aware of it, and apparently it's still in the booklet that I work at TypeSafe as well. So ever since then, I was with them for about 6 months. They wanted me to look at a number of things to do with the community, but one of the main ones was rebooting community contributions, and long story short, priorities changed. I was contracting with them. That funding got cut. So it didn't really stop me doing it. It just really slowed it down, because now I've got to go and actually earn a living and then do this stuff on the side. But I know what we're going to be doing. And the surprise here is, while I was looking for the propaganda pictures, I discovered an absolute wealth of goodness in Star Wars propaganda posters. A bunch of these have been taken and updated with Star Wars imagery, and the result is really quite spectacularly fun. So if you like these, check out the Star Wars propaganda posters. You can buy them on the internet now. So, okay, this is one of the ones I like. So, Dig for Victory. I think let's start this by framing it with what Adrian likes to put up as kind of the current split of effort in the community on Scala. He did a bit of, and it's changing, it's definitely improving, but he did a bit of metrics earlier in the year. I don't think he's done them again, but he has said there's been an uptick since I've been kind of pushing this message, and others have been pushing this message. But right now, Scala development, it's about 50% TypeSafe, about 25% EPFL, and about 25% the rest of the community. That's actually up a lot for the community numbers. But given, and obviously TypeSafe has some advantages in that there are engineers that are paid full-time to work on Scala there. But given the size of the community now, we should be seeing a bigger upswing. Everybody agrees with that. When I first started talking about this, we actually wondered whether people were sort of waiting to come out of the gates and there would be this kind of deluge of interest, and the team, as it stands right now, wouldn't be able to keep up with it. That hasn't been the case. There is an uptick, a nicely controlled growth, which is good. That's kind of what we want. If suddenly everybody started doing this stuff, the resulting experience for everybody who was contributing would be absolutely horrible. Your pull requests will get stuck in queues for months and months as people try to catch up. The Scala compiler team would probably start running around and making chicken noises or something and going completely nuts. So it's this controlled, smooth growth is good, but we're ready to ramp it up. So that's what we're going to talk about here. So there was a lot of problems with the community. The community site, I think, is the best way to put it when I came into it. It wasn't very welcoming, it was confusing, and there was, I went in with fresh eyes when I came in, and I'm like, okay, I'm a new guy, I haven't been in the community, I don't know any of these guys, how do I, put myself in this beginner state, and how do I communicate? And there was a bunch of things. I mean, one of them was, if you go to the bug fix pages, the first page of bug fixes, they'd never been sorted or randomized. All the good ones had been taken. So the first page that you hit was a bunch of bugs that nobody wants to fix anymore. It was like, I hate to say it, but it was things like Emacs major mode stuff, and just some really gnarly bugs that everybody was like, no, I'm not interested in that. And they never got to the interesting stuff that's on, pages 3 or 4 onwards. So, it was a lot of low-hanging fruit to fix, first of all. Things like prioritizing the bugs by number of votes. which seems like an obvious thing to do. Actually doesn't work that well, because one of the problems we've got is people don't even vote on the issue list much right now. Another thing that we'll talk about. Okay, message that I want you to take away from today is if you want to contribute to Scala, no matter what level you are and no matter what time commitment you can make, there is something you can do. It doesn't take long to go and look through the bug database, search for a few things and vote them up because they're important to you. That helps. Okay, that's really low-hanging fruit that you can do to help. There's documentation. Documentation was actually the first thing I tackled. There were several reasons for that. One is it's actually in a better state than most of the contributor stuff. Heather, Philip, others have done a great job in keeping it up to date and keeping it relevant. And the other reason to kind of get the documentation story together was to do the rest of this process, we need to improve the documentation for all parts of the process. So the first thing that had to be sorted out was, if you want to help sort out the rest of the contributor story, you're going to need to know how to do the documentation first so that you can help contribute that. Bug fixes, I mentioned, we visited the bug fix pages and got them into some kind of more appealing state where you can actually get bug fixes that you might want to fix. And they're categorized now. There's actually different categories. We'll have a little demo in a minute. Tools and IDEs were just pretty much being completely ignored. These are important parts of the Scala ecosystem, but things like SBT, if you knew where to look, you could go and contribute to SBT. There was no mention of it as being part of the sort of core package or offering of Scala, and I think you'd agree that certainly most Scala projects that I've seen use SBT. It's an important part of the ecosystem. Likewise for Scala IDE, that one's less of a slam dunk because a lot of people use IntelliJ, but it's still a very important part. There's other things like Scala-reform. I bet a bunch of people use Scala-reform in here. Poor Scala-reform's on life support. It's away in some hospital with a machine that goes beep right now. Could really use some love. So, you know, those are things that we're trying to bring forward. And then the other one is the core libraries. Core libraries really haven't changed since 2.8. That I don't know exactly what that is, but that's several years ago now. That's quite surprising. And a lot of the, when people think contribution to Scala, particularly core Scala right now, they think of the language, they think of SIPs, you know, actually enhancements to the language. There's a bunch of stuff we can do just in libraries. I mean, look at all the stuff libraries can do, and you'll see that you don't need to go in and open up the chest of the compiler to get, you know, a big impact on things. Of course, there are still compiler features that we'll be discussing. That has actually been the lowest on the list. Strangely enough, that was sort of why I was dragged into this, was around about the time I joined, was right around about the time that type level forked Scala, partly through a sort of air of frustration of things aren't moving fast enough. We want some changes, we want some differences. And there were no right and wrongs in this. There was a bunch of people that were working really hard, but what they wanted was the ability to get SIPs and so on through. And it was clear that that process had become stalled, kind of clogged like an artery, or something like that. And that, in the end, ended up being the lowest priority because type level and type safe are actually working quite closely together on that. There's a lot of questions that will need to be answered, but I'm happy to sort of let those guys get on with it. And then once they've figured out what works, after banging their head against the wall a bit, we'll then write it down and document it. So as I mentioned, documentation really needed help with documenting everything else. So if your comfort level is okay with coming in and helping with documentation, there's a lot of work still to do there. And it's everything. We'll have a quick look in a minute. What's changed in the documentation? Basically a reorg. From whatever you want to contribute, you should be able to go to scalalang.org/contribute now and have a starting point that leads you through what am I interested in contributing. Documentation, bug fixes, tools, libraries, all of that sort of thing. It should lead you through with a story. Documentation, there's lots of different choices in documentation even. And basically rewriting or at least editing anything that I couldn't understand the first time through when I did it. So is the documentation done now? No, not by a long shot. In fact, the latest stuff that we're doing with slips has invalidated much of the stuff that I rewrote, so that needs to be rewritten again. That right now, don't look at the Scala-lang site for information on slips. You won't get told off for doing it that way. It's our fault. But the latest information is actually in the Scala slip GitHub repo, which, you know, we'll talk about in a little bit. And the Scala-lang site will be updated shortly to point to that. I think we're actually going to decentralize some of this. It's a lot quicker to change things in GitHub than it is to have to go through the Scala-lang org stuff. So we'll try and reduce that and move it out, decentralize it a bit. And it should never be done. This is a constantly rolling process. Okay, so this is a pledge drive. Hope you guys want to help. You're not allowed to leave the room until you agree now. That was an unwritten part of being in here. And I love the picture here, by the way. I put in pledge drive, and the 5 original Doctor Who's came up. And I just thought, that's too good. I've got to use that one. All right, so how can you help? Well, First piece of homework is go to scala-lang.org/contribute and have a look there. It's a lot less intimidating than it used to be. I think it's a little bit better structured. One of the things that I was keen on getting is for any sizable contribution, there was a great document called the Hacker's Guide. Has anybody actually looked at the Hacker's Guide, or did anybody know of it? Okay, it's a great, it's a great document. It's somewhat lengthy, isn't it? It's a bit intimidating when you go onto that page and you see the scroll bar at the side is like this far into the document, and you're like, oh my goodness. So it's actually got, the Hacker Guide is great. It's got all the information you need on there. It's just a bit overwhelming. So one of the things I did was made a second page that references into the Hacker Guide and a few other things. It's just a checklist. It's like a 13-point checklist of do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. And if you need more information on any of those steps, clicking on it takes you into the correct section of the Hacker Guide. As I said, a lot of this was just low-hanging fruit that makes it easier to get organized. And I like checklists. I went through pilot training some years ago. Pilots have checklists for everything. It doesn't matter if the plane's on fire and the wing's fallen off. You have a checklist for that. I think it's to stop you screaming as you die. It's to give you something else to think about, but who knows, it might actually work, so checklists are good. Now, the latest thing, and this is after March, when I was moved into a voluntary role of doing this, I kind of had to prioritize down to, let's stay on top of one thing, and that one thing really was the libraries. The libraries haven't changed in a long time. There's a lot of possibilities there. There's a lot of people want things like, for example, validation in the core libraries, some kind of validation solution, or better logging. There's all sorts of things that people are talking about, being of interest there. And so the slip process is now, I don't know if you guys have actually heard anything from this. SIPs are Scala improvement process. It's the way things get changed in the Scala language. Slips are the Scala library improvement process. They are less rigorous. It's not that they're not rigorous, they're just less rigorous. There's less hoops to jump through. Libraries are inherently less intrusive. You can choose not to import them and not to use them than a change to the language is. A change to the language can be intrusive on everybody, whether they like it or not. Library shouldn't be that bad, although obviously there's the potential for clashes. An example is if we do validation, one of the things that is coming up is like a kind of an OR, the ability to say return this value or an error. It's kind of the core of validation. That OR is very similar to an either or an either, depending on, I can't even remember how I used to say it when I was in England now, and it's all mixed up in there. But the difference with OR is that it's an opinionated either. When you introduce something like that, you have to think about how it's going to coexist with the existing libraries. These are not easy questions. They're not super hard, and I think the value will be there, but that's the sort of thing that we're looking at. So Scala slips now have several things going for them. I think the number one is that we've established a monthly meeting. There is a meeting that will happen every month on the second Thursday of every month. Of course, the times vary. I think Amsterdam time, it's 5:30 in the evening. It's fairly early in the morning for me in California, but it's A regular thing. We meet for somewhere between 30 minutes to 60 minutes. It's broadcast on Hangouts live, so you can watch it. If you've got questions, that's the place to come and ask them. And it's also, once it's been broadcast, it's recorded and put onto the YouTube channel. There's a Scala/slip project on GitHub, and there's a channel on Gitter, Scala/slip, where it's hard to say Scala/slip, where we discuss the administration and process organization behind that. Quick demo of the new stuff, let's do that, but I won't spend a lot of time on it. You guys know how to use websites, I'm guessing, at this point, so there's not a ton of point in looking at it, but if I can get scalalang.org up, you'll see contribute, and then here, for example, you've got documentation, code reviews. Code reviews is another great one. If you have only a few minutes, look through the existing pull requests and see if you can see any problems with it, or offer up improvements. Code reviews from the community. This is a great way to find out what's going on with your language. Keep up with what people are doing to it. So it works your way through. Basically, this is sort of a recommended contributor order. It's a good idea to start with documentation because you get to know the language better that way anyway. And then you can work through some bug fixes, code reviews, core libraries, IDE and build tools, and then, of course, the compiler and the language itself. And here's the tickets. If you want to work on tools, you can now click on this and you get a list of the community tool tickets available, that sort of thing. Right, that's a quick demo. Let's keep going. All right, that was the demo. The other thing is, please be patient with us. There's not many of us working on it. I'm at very reduced capacity right now, especially this month. I'm only going to be home for a week this month, so it does cut into the time. So if things aren't happening fast enough, there's a couple of things you could do. You could moan, but that probably won't win you any friends. You could just be very patient, or the perfect option is you dive in and help. Roll up your sleeves and get involved. You will be welcomed, I promise you. Now, you may not be welcomed immediately, depending on who's on a plane and where they are and stuff, but I can tell you right now, the compiler team is all over this. They're very, very keen on this work. I'm not saying or doing anything here that they're not happy with, and they're really nice guys. One of them's sitting right here now, Seth. But I mean, anytime you get to work with Lucas, Seth, Jason, Adrian, it's fun. They're really nice guys and they're very knowledgeable. So, all right, logistics. Some of this stuff is going to change. I'm still not sure what our role for Scala internals will be going forwards. There's discussions right now of whether Scala internals is the best place to be organizing this stuff. Certainly right now, for the kind of up-to-the-date or up-to-the-minute requests or conversations, the Gitter channel is where things are really happening right now. So jump into the Gitter channel. If it's something that requires a posting on Scala internals, you'll be told. People will be like, we should probably get this on Scala internals and have a kind of open process of comments and reviews on it. If you do this, because we're starting to load up Scala internals with more stuff, for now, and again, this could all change, please put something like, if it's to do with docs, please put square brackets docs in the title of the post that you make, just so that people who glance at the titles can see whether it's something they need to look at or whether it's something that's the purview of another team right now. Up until now, internals has really been for discussing language changes. If we start putting things like tools and documentation and libs in there are different people who need to be aware of that, and they will be able to glance at those titles and see what it is. Read before you write. Just make sure nobody's already discussing this or it hasn't already been turned down for some reason or another. And as I say, much of it is being sorted out. Okay, so let's go through really quick some of the ideas for low-level, low-hanging fruit for contributing. One of the ones that I like, it is a type-safe tool, but it's a very useful one that I use all the time, particularly in training, is Activator Templates. If you've got something you want to demonstrate, putting together a little Activator template with some documentation and a running code example is a great way to do that. And it takes just a couple of hours. It's really low, low engagement level, really high reward, and you're not going to get a lot of people. The review process is pretty easy with an Activator template. You post it up there on GitHub, you say, I want to put this in. Someone takes a look, and as long as it doesn't crash and blow your machine up, they'll probably approve it right away. So that's a possibility. Reporting bugs, of course. Jira, we're going with Jira for now. There's lots of talk about getting this over to GitHub issues, and probably it will happen at some point. If there's anybody willing to volunteer to help with that effort, then I know Adrian is taking volunteers for that. But it's Jira for now. There's too much stuff in there to just walk away from it. We're going to have to figure out how we get away from it eventually, I think. Mainly because the community doesn't like it. Does anybody really like Jira here? Does anybody really hate Jira here? Is it keeping you away from contributing to Scala? See, that's what we're hearing. So we need to do something about it. We've heard it. We need to do something about that. It's just it's a tricky problem. It's not so horrible. If you really dislike it that much, get on the Slip channel and ask somebody to do the Jira bit for you and give you some work to do. Okay? Somebody will do that. If anybody wants to volunteer to be a Jira translator, that's a new job that we've just made up right now. Okay? Take the Jiras and give them to people who want stuff to do. Right. Scaladoc. There's loads and loads of missing documentation. I think one of the easiest ones to find is you look at package objects. Package objects are a great place to put documentation. Summaries of APIs, they're custom made for that, and people either don't know that the package objects are there, so they never read them, and because of that, people never write the package object documentation, and it's a crying shame. It's sort of starving because no one knows it's there. If we start getting more and more people aware of package objects as a great place to document overviews and things like that, I think it'll be really good. Spell check. When you get to the documentation level, we ask for help and then we set down rules. So it's going to, you'll get kickbacks for things like spell checks or failing spell checks and bad grammar. Code, I think Eugene Yokota is working on some stuff to actually get, all of this will take time, but to get to where coding examples in Scaladoc will be able to be executed to make sure that they are correct. And that would be really nice to have. Right now, if it's wrong in the Scaladoc, it's wrong. People copy and paste your code out, and they'll be like, it says in the doc, this is what I should be doing, and it doesn't work. So we'll eventually get to the point where that is actually checked as part of the build, which will be really nice. Docs.scalalang.org, this is where a lot of the tutorials and getting started guides are in Scala. So if you want to contribute those. In particular, one I keep asking for right now, it's prime opportunity, prime real estate right now, is Spark has taken off in a huge way in the last year or so. There's really two major languages, maybe three if you count Java in Spark, and that's Python and Scala. And apparently the Spark user groups are full of people that have been using Python and are now wanting to learn Scala because they know they can get more power out of Spark. They're not interested in the language so much, it's just the Python has been a gateway drug into the power of Spark, and now they want more power out of it. We don't have a good Python to Scala conversion tutorial right now. That would be a great thing to have if somebody knows both languages and wants to write, even if it's specifically for Spark. Like, if you did this in Python for Spark, do this in Scala for Spark. That would be tremendous marketing for getting people across the Scala right now. You could also update the wiki. Actually, don't update the wiki. The wiki's dead. Does anybody know Scala has a wiki? Okay, one hand. I rated it for the Scaladoc stuff that I did. So there's actually a Scaladoc, the tags to use in Scaladoc and stuff like that. It was very useful for that. Some of it was out of date, but you can mine it for information. Just don't update it. Take it, steal it, put it into Scalalang or something else, and that's probably the thing to do. Scalalang itself, this is where we're going to be documenting the processes as we move forward. Although, like I say, I think the trend now is to try and decentralize a lot of that stuff. I imagine, it's time to talk about the kind of breaking news. How long have I got? I'm 25 minutes in, right? So I got a little bit of time. So one of the things that we were just talking about a few minutes before this is I've been concentrating totally on slips to the exclusion of everything else. SIPs have a mechanism. We know it's not a great one, but there's a lot of things that need to be sorted out. And one of the things that's a big problem with SIPs is that there's two things that happen with SIPs when people propose them. Either people come in with actually there are Yeah, no, mostly there's two. Either people come in with the idea that they're going to make a proposal, and it's clearly going to be a wonderful proposal, so much so that the Scala compiler team is going to go, oh my God, we have to do this, and drop everything and implement their proposal for them. That's one thing that can happen. The other one is people assume, more correctly, that if they propose this, they're going to have to damn well implement it themselves. Neither of these two things is exactly true. Obviously, the first one's not unlikely to happen. If it's a really good proposal, it'll get on the list. Heaven knows when the resources will be available to actually do it. So if you want it done quickly, you have to do it yourself. But actually, what you can do is make a proposal and hope that it gets enough interest that other contributors will pick it up. Right now, we don't really have that ability in SIPs. The kind of unwritten rule is if you propose it, you're responsible for it. So, and this is something that Rust does. We're basing a lot of our stuff on Rust, the language Rust. They've really sorted a lot of this out. So they have the difference between a proposal and an active RFC. Anyone can make a proposal. If it gets enough interest, somebody will adopt it and make it their RFC from the community. So now you've got the ability to say, well, I don't really have the expertise, but I kind of know what I want. Let's put a proposal in and see if anybody bites on it. And if they don't, well, tough, you're going to have to do it yourself if you want it done. But if somebody comes along and says, well, I really want to contribute something, but I don't know what to contribute, and then someone over here is like, I really know what I want, but I don't have the skills to do it, then this is going to be the place where we going to make this happen. So there's very likely soon-ish going to be, like there's a Scala slip, there's probably going to be a Scala SIP, which will be a slightly more rigorous process, but it will be the same sort of idea. We'll decentralize how you propose a SIP in the same way that we're proposing how we do a slip. Of course, if no one likes the way slips are done, we'll change it again. Well, that's the way we're all about the people here. We have to do what they want. Scalalang.org, so that's where some of this is going to be documented, but as I say, I think we're going to decentralize it. Bug fixes was already well documented. There's a new checklist, which I mentioned, the checklist, yeah.
Why do you say the pain threshold for Scalalang is high?
Because it's the main site. The stuff that you contribute onto, this is the Scala website, the Scala language website. So to get changes there is a significantly greater review process than like Scalalang.org or any of those. It's not horrible, but you're going to get kickbacks on things like grammar and accuracy and layout and all of that sort of thing. It's the main site that people hit for Scala. So we want to make sure it looks pretty, it's accurate, it's correct, there's no obvious grammar mistakes in it, that sort of thing. So yeah, it's just, high pain threshold is probably wrong. Medium pain threshold is probably a better way to do it.
High standards.
Yeah, well, Heather has very high standards, so you have to get it past Heather. And that's not always easy, as I found in the past. So, and rightly so. Someone's got to keep on top of that. Okay, tools and IDEs. This is all new. There wasn't really a page for tools and IDEs before. There's a bunch of them out there. Scalariform, Scala, Scala P. There's a bunch of them out there that you might be interested in looking at and helping with. Now, the core libraries, this is the all-new stuff. This is the core library proposals, the slips, the meetings that we have. We haven't had any slips yet, but I think I've got enough time to do a quick demo. It's really easy now. This is hopefully going to be the template for processes like this from now on. Now, I'm about to break my own rules. One of the things about developing slips or proposing slips is these should not be done in a vacuum. They shouldn't come out of left field. One day somebody wakes up and says, you know what, I really think I'd like X, Y, and Z in the library, and then just proposes a slip. There ought to be a good deal of, hit the Gitter channel first and say, hey, what do you guys think about having this thingy in the core libraries? And people will discuss it for a bit, and then they'll probably say, yes, put a slip in. That sounds like a good thing, particularly if there's some project that it's already based on or that you can raid for the implementation. What I'm going to do today is just show you the actual mechanism for putting a slip in place now, and I'm going to use a completely ridiculous one so that nobody thinks that I'm being in any way serious. So we are going to, one of the things that's greatly disturbed me over the years in Scala is the lack of emoticon support. So we're going to add an emoticon library proposal to Scala today. So let's do it quick. What we do, this will actually eventually be reviewed. I finished it up this morning. I haven't even spell checked it yet, so this is not yet a pull request, but hopefully this will be something that will be on the main Scala slips or Scala slip GitHub page. This is the process. You can follow it. It's not too long. It explains what the process is. It explains the life cycle, how they're reviewed, implementing, what happens when they're postponed, and so on. This is not a long document. I think everyone can read it without falling asleep. So what it basically says is this. When you want to do this, fork the repository first of all. So I'll fork it as me. Okay. It photocopies it. Come on. There we go. Right. I've got mine now. Let's clone it. Git clone. Okay. Now, you guys won't have to do this unless you want to work in a feature branch, but because I haven't got those changes in the main one yet, I'm going to clone or check out RFC homage. That's what I've called it, because most of this stuff is based on, CD slip first. Most of this stuff is based on what Rust did. All right, now what we do, there's a directory in here called text. We copy slip template into 0000 emoticon library.md. Let's edit that. Oh, VI. Burn. All right. And we're going to go down here. Josh Surratt kindly agreed to co-sponsor this for me. So it's going to be Dick Wall and Joshua Surratt. Okay. And oh, thank you. I am. There we go. Nice. So this is the template to get started. It just explains a bit at the top. The history is going to be, initial version is, what is today? June the 9th. June 9th. Initial draft. Get rid of that one. And I'm not going to fill this in. Obviously, you should be descriptive and precise here. Paul Phillips said it best. A loose slip will sink ships. That was the idea. His funny play on words. But yeah, nice tight slips is what we want. Nice tight specifications. But we need smiley faces is what I'm going to put. Faces. And high-level overview. Description, all that sort of thing. Motivating examples, right. We can't do this. Scala, import Scala.emoticon.emo. Emo. Now, haven't you always wanted to do that? Actually, we could do a print line around it, right? So there's there's some.
But better put backticks around it.
Yeah. I was just thinking, you know what? Let's do this one instead. That one I think is at least okay, right? So, yeah, good enough. Right, there's our motivating example or whatever, and we want to. And we'll go down a bit here. Examples. Oh, I should have put that down there, but never mind. Example, comparison examples, drawbacks. Why would we not do this? I can't think of any at all. Don't do that in real life. This is all things not to do. And we go down here, all the rest of it, you get the idea. I love a lot of this was stolen wholesale from Rust as well. I love the headings that they put, things like drawbacks. When you do this, these questions will be asked, so you might as well be honest about it. Drawback of, for example, a drawback, for example, of or is the relationship between or and either, which is something that we're going to need to sort out if we do that. That sort of thing. But, okay, do that. That's in there. Git status. There it is. Git add 000 emoticon. Git push. Actually, commit. Add emoticon proposal. And then we would push and then we'd make a pull request. Pull request. And the process from there on will be driven by the review process for the PR. Okay, that's where we'll have the discussions. There'll be back and forths. There may be requests to see code. There'll be a lot of stuff. But I think you'll see that's not a tremendously heavyweight process to contribute something now. All right. The final thing you'll need to do is open up the index, the README, which is here, and you will put, once it's assigned a number, you'll actually you'll put it in the active slip list on the main README and commit that back again. And then everyone can see what the active slips are. Pretty simple, right? I think this is a... What's the question?
Well, I saw the Rust language RFC process in your text file.
Yeah, that was because I figured because I stole so much of their work, I'd better give credit where credit was due. So I basically say at the top, most of this process is pretty much stolen wholesale from Rust. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, so thank you Rust people. It says it up there. Anyway, so, right, that's it. Super simple. Probably in time there'll be something like this for SIPs as well, because the SIP stuff is also... SIPs require changing Scala-lang, docs.scalalang.org right now. That involves, amongst other things, running Jekyll on your machine. It's not a horrible burden, but it's another damn thing. You don't want to be running Jekyll, you want to be working on the project. Now you've got to get Jekyll running and make sure it all works. It takes about 5 minutes to generate the site, which is, kind of annoying. Just every time you change it, it's another couple of minutes before it comes back up again. So obviously we'll try and reduce the impedance there. All right, so the core libraries. I love the stuff. I haven't been pointing out the propaganda, but I hope you guys have been enjoying the propaganda imagery. All right, slip meetings. I think this is the main thing to take away. They're monthly on Hangouts, second Thursday of the month. They're streamed live, publicly released. We haven't yet come up with it's a bunch of volunteers right now. No one's kicked me out, but at some point I hope that the process becomes healthy enough to where there will actually be consideration of like who's doing this and who isn't. All that stuff's got to be put in place. I'm a firm believer in getting something even crappy in place rather than nothing at all, and then improving it. So we'll try and figure out how we want to invite, putting it tactfully. So a job like this needs to have people of the right temperament. Though I think we all know there's people in the Scala community that would be very vocally against anything that introduced some kind of, something that was against their idioms. And those are not the people, we don't want reactionary knee-jerk, no, we're not doing that. It has to be the right kind of mentality and temperament for this job. It's a service, it's a really mostly crappy, boring service job that you're doing. That's a lot of procedure. It's not like a secret cabal with a room full of people saying, oh, let's do it. No, it's much more of a bunch of work. So Scala slip on Gitter. The Hangouts are broadcast, and to follow those, follow scalaslip@gmail.com. That's the account. And in fact, I have like a hyper-secure password that I need to give to about 5 or 6 different people so that I remove myself as the bus bottleneck or whatever, raise the bus number. Anyway, what's in it for you? I still haven't got this done yet. It's been low on the priorities. We want to get stickers for contributors. After you get a certain number of contributions, you get a really cool sticker, and Jason and Seth and Adrian and Lucas will have them on their laptops as well. So if you want to be like them, you'll earn a sticker, and there'll be like tiers of stickers, and you can go all the way up to platinum level and stuff like that. So you can like wear your geek pride right here. But we haven't even got the designs yet, so it's on the list. Right, so much left to do. SIPs, as I mentioned, are long overdue for an overhaul. The SIPs and slips are sort of migrating to a new home as we're going. Like I said, one of the things you will not get into trouble for right now is following anything that's written down on any of the official sites. Even if you go and do the wrong thing, if it's on the slips, that's our fault. I'm going to try and update the slip part of the site soon so that it reflects reality. But no one's going to yell at you and say, hey, you're doing completely the wrong thing. They will say, actually, this is out of date. We need to do this instead right now. So it's migrating. Anybody know there was a Scala-lang blog here? Yeah, there is. It's got one article on it. And it's from about 2 years ago. At some point, we're going to revive that and get it going again. So, although my take again, it requires Jekyll to build it right now. I'd rather have something that was a bit lower gate weight. So we might end up like moving it to an actual blogging engine rather than something based on Jekyll. I don't know yet. And of course, the Jira to GitHub migration. So this is the bit I wanted to get to. What is it, 45 minutes? I'm out of time. No, I've got 5 minutes left for questions and comments. Yeah? 5 minutes left? Okay, so I am really interested in what you have to say. If you don't get a chance to say it now, Scala/slip on Gitter is the place to hang out and tell us what you think. But yeah, any questions or comments or yes?
Yes. I agree that there's a lot to do with Scala, but I think there's also the Scala communities that can use a lot of help. There's still, I'm running a Scala community in the south of the Netherlands, Scala, but there are a lot of communities that, like mine, that are just run by a single person, you know, and you can really use help, multiple people organizing. Also, attending these meetups, you can help other people, you know, to get into Scala and help them to get started. And another thing is what we discussed with all the Scala user leaders, that we actually want a single place for Scala users to find Scala meetups and find the Scala group locally, etc. And we want to build that place, but we also need help doing that. So also in the Scala community stuff, there's lots of stuff to do.
Actually, this brings me, it's nice because that gave me a moment to think, which, you know, I have a bad habit of not doing when I'm talking. There's two things I want to hit there. First is that one of the things that we've been talking about off and on, and I certainly haven't had the time to actually get anything done about it yet, but this is still on the list of, we really want to do this, is we want to get together with the Scala user groups and have some kind of a event hackathon weekend where you come and you contribute whatever you can. Okay, you join us for the weekend, a bunch of beanbags and pizza around at your local Scala user group, and if you want to write documentation, you can do that. If you want to fix some bugs, you can do that. We'll figure it out so that there's some kind of tech support hotline for when things go wrong, and you can actually, I don't know, FaceTime or hang out with someone to get some help to say, okay, we need to get past this bit. You can't do much in a weekend, if it was a weekend, or in a day or an evening, whatever it turns out to be. But I think what it will do is kickstart that process. If you get over the initial hurdle of, hey, I actually made a contribution and it worked and it got accepted and I feel pride, that might kickstart the whole thing where people start to do it more. And what was the second thing? So there was that. I've forgotten. So somebody else ask a question and I'll remember as you're asking. Oh no, that was it. I got it. Perfect. So the thing is, since I did this talk in San Francisco, Adrian, who's sort of from the compiler team, is the liaison for the community stuff. He said there's been an uptick in the number of contributions, and there is, you know, a positive trend. But what I wanted to say was to throw down the gauntlet and say it's kind of slow. This is the chance for the Europeans to show the Americans how it's done. So if you're in this room and you want to give the US a good schooling, you know how to do it now. If they see like a hockey stick now of contributions, we'll be able to say, hey, the Europe, they really get it. The US is kind of backwards on this, and then we can play you off against each other for a while.
Maybe it'll just be because there's an American on the team now.
Right. That's true. There hasn't been, has there? That's yeah, that's very true. Yeah, you'll bring the Americans then. That's what they brought you on board for, right? Was to get the whole of America working on. Yeah. Woo! All right. So, yeah, any other questions or comments, or please help us. You will be welcomed, despite what it might have seemed like in the past. I know that it hasn't been a welcoming thing. Yes?
I was wondering, related to Scala.org, would it make sense to use something like the framework documentation system where you can choose the documentation version by the version of Scala?
I would love for stuff like that to happen. It's just such a discouraging amount of work to take on. But if we get enough people, then anything's possible, right? So yeah, I mean, stuff like that. I don't hate Jekyll, but it seems like we probably at this point have some better tools that we can bring to bear than Jekyll for the Scala site as well. However, making that migration, that's a big job. It's not something that's high enough on the priority list for the value that it would bring to do it right now. But if there was a group who just decided, hey, this should really be lift or play or something like that, I think that would be of interest, because we kind of want to show what Scala can do in Scala, right? Not necessarily in Ruby. So it's not that it's wrong, it's just, it's there. And plus, working on the Scala lang and the Scala and the docs site, 5 minutes to build the site is just unforgivably slow. This is on my liquid-cooled machine at home. This is not a slow machine. And I still have to wait 4 or 5 minutes for the thing to be ready to render, which is a pain in the butt. So I'd like to get it faster turnaround than that. Cool. All right, well, thank you all for coming. Please help spread the word as well, because we really, I mean, it's an exciting time, and we really want to get we've got a big community now. We've got a very, very energetic and sensible community with lots of enthusiasm, and we've got to harness that now. We've got to make the most of it. So, cool, thank you. You're going to ask for the slides, aren't you?
Yep.
Yep. Download as PDF. And let's pull that out. Thank you. All right, it's download. There we go. And there. Oh, I should probably not be. Let's get that out in case I give something secret away.
Yeah.
Right, downloads. Copy, and it's this no-name one, isn't it? Yeah. Paste. And it? I think that's it.
Great.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
No problem,
Great talk.
thanks. Thank you.
Very much.